Okay, so today's lecture will take whatever it takes. I have a total of 33 slides. Maybe we don't need to spend that much time to go over the slides. This is pretty much up to you because now this is your opportunity to discuss and ask questions. And then end of my lecture today, we're gonna do that voting action that I mentioned earlier. So we can vote what is a question that will, for 100% certainly, will be in an exam paper, and then you will have an opportunity to vote out one question. So that will be a Socrates voting action. So, but what are the questions? That's what you need to learn first. Now, how it goes then? It goes such that I will go through each one of the subject matters that we've been discussed, and then after each one of the subject matter, I will show the related questions. This is your opportunity to ask clarifications, or if you don't know how to answer correctly, we can discuss about that too. And then once you have seen all the questions, then the voting action. All right? How it sounds? Okay, now remember, no lectures next week, because the lecture week is next week, and once you can come back from that week, then we have 3 visiting lectures. The first one is a biomechanics, then advanced finite element modeling, and then ELM systems. That will be the last. And then I'm back again. I mean, I will be hanging around during these visiting lectures too, so but it's not, I'm not going to deliver these lectures. Okay. How is enrollment, registration? Have you been able to register yourself to midterm exam?
Yes.
So that was all right. Business as usual, I suppose. No difference than that. Any other practical questions? All good? Okay, so let's get started then. Remember again, you know, each one of the areas are categorized in terms of number of stars. And now if there's a lot of stars, that means that's where I'm recommending you to start reading. You know, if you are in a hurry, so maybe there's something that you can skip. And if you skip those matters that are not rated as a high number of stars, likelihood that you will get the questions from those topics is not that high. So you can, you know, still score fairly all right, even if you just looking the matters that are rated as a higher number of stars. But of course, if you're aiming to get a good grade, I mean really good grade, say 4 out of 5, even 5 out of 5, of course you have to cover everything we've been discussed, every single thing. So the first thing is a 3-dimensional kinematics. So this is a very large area, and we discuss about many details related to that, but 3-dimensional kinematics in general is medium importance. Medium importance is 3 stars, so it's recommended, but really if you just a few topics that you can cover, you need to skip this too. Okay, then there are subcategories under the 3-dimensional kinematics that are also rated. Now, the first thing to know about the 3-dimensional kinematics that is not conceptually different than planar case. We're still using the body reference coordinate system, so it's not different in that perspective. The difference, of course, comes in the fact that in 3-dimensional space, vectors will have 3 components. And rotation matrix that maps the representation from body reference coordinate system to global coordinate system. That's the matrix that is a 3x3 matrix. Now, that's by the way this one. I lost my pen. I don't know where that disappeared. No, it's here. So I need to use my substitute pen. My finger. So let's see, drawing here. So this is a 3-dimensional kinematics, and this is matrix. Other components are vectors. Vectors with the 3 components. Now, how this 3 by 3 rotation matrix, how that can be obtained. So we have learned 3 different ways to do it. The first way is the one that is based on 3 parameters, and that's the method that is called Euler angles. Now, something important to remember when you look at the Euler angles, that it is a method that is based on 3 successive rotations, one rotation after another. That's the really important thing to remember, because otherwise you're not going to get the Euler angles. Now, typical sequence of rotation is Z, X, Z. That is coming from the gyro. It can be something else too, but that's often used, at least in a multi-body modeling. So the sequence is, put it in another word, is a 3, 1, 3, meaning that the first axis is a third axis where the rotation takes place, second one is a first axis, and again the last one is a third axis. So 3, 1, 3. That's the good kind of rule to memorize it. Why this 3, 1, 3 is easy to remember? That's of course if you look at the Donald Duck's car, its registration plate is 3, 1, 3. Right? You knew it already. So that's why it is important number. I don't know which come first, the Euler angles or Donald Duck's car. I guess the Euler angles. Maybe those 2 things are not related. I don't know. That's a bit unclear to me. I cannot explain that to you. But anyways, so remember this 3, 1, 3. Okay, Euler angles, that's what we looked in the very beginning. It goes such that you create the matrix representation corresponding each one of these rotations, and now successive rotations you can get by multiplying these matrices together. Don't try to memorize how it is. I'm not going to expecting you to memorize anything like that. But the concept, I'm expecting you to memorize and understand too. Okay, so that's the first one. So it's based on 3 parameters. So that's conceptually very important to understand. 3 parameters. And whatever you're dealing with the 3 parameters, you are having a numerical problem. The numerical problem is a singularity of some kind. It's in Euler angles, it is called gimbal locking. Gimbal locking means that you kind of losing ability to describe one rotation because 2 rotation axis becomes parallel. And that's what it means. So then you are kind of unable to describe one rotation. And that's what is called gimbal locking. And even though the title implies locking, it's not mechanical lock, but it's just the inability to describe one rotation. That's what it is. Highly recommended to look what is a gimbal locking. Make sure you understand that, because that's kind of what I like to ask in a written exam. Because all these stories about, what was it, Apollo 13 and so on. Okay, so that's the one thing. Now, and again, if you're going to change the order of rotation, it's not going to help you in terms of locking. So you're still going to face a locking. So you always can have that as a problem. And now, there are other methods than Euler angles that are based on 3 parameters. Again, doesn't matter which one you select, you always have some sort of numerical difficulty. The way to get rid of the numerical difficulty is by adding 4th parameter. And now this is extremely important to understand. So if I'm asking how many different ways, how many different independent ways body can rotate, is it going to be 4 because of 4 parameters, or 3 because of the 3 axes, or 5 because of 5? How many different ways body can rotate? Is it 3 different ways? So I'm not changing that. Sometimes what is confusing is somehow kind of look that the mathematics is changing the physics. That's never happened. That's not, if you say that the mathematics is changing the physics, something is completely wrong. Something is completely wrong. That cannot happen. So if you say that the body weight is changing because of the mathematics, no. Mathematics is a very powerful tool, but it's not changing the physics. Keep this in your mind rest of your life. So if someone is coming and says, physics laws are different because of mathematics, this and that, forget about it. That cannot be the truth. Remember I made a demonstration that, the door is redundant and we can't escape from the lecture room. Remember this story? Yeah, we were able to escape from the lecture. It's a good example that mathematics is not changing the physics. It's never able to do so. Yes, back to what was that topic? Oh yeah, the 4 parameters. I was just explaining about the 4 parameters. Why 4 parameters? Because it helps in terms of mathematics. It makes our life difficult because of interpretation. Because whatever you're dealing with, the 4 parameters, human brains, doesn't matter how big brains you have, you're going to have a difficulty because the body can rotate in 3 different ways. And now you're describing them by using 4 ways. No, they don't match. They don't match. And this is what makes it difficult to deal with this. So how it is possible that we have 4 parameters? Because 4 parameters are not independent, but they are coupled one way or another. How they are coupled, that depends on the way you're describing your rotation. But just to give you an example, the one way we describe the rotation, that was a Rodriguez equation. The concept of Rodriguez equation was such that we have original vector. You remember those 6 here, but another vector. So the concept was such, what is this? Oh, this is a vector as well. Okay, so the concept was such that you have original vector pointing in random, or is in a random orientation in space. Then you take assisting vector, vector v, unit in the length, unit in the length. Here is your constraint, because this cannot be whatever you want. It can be in any orientation, but it's unit in a length. You put this to origin of your original vector, you welded them together to make sure that they cannot move with respect to each other, and then you introduce in the rotation, that is amount of theta. Now you look, relation between your original vector and rotated vector, and you can express that relation with help of 3x3 rotation matrix that is based on Rodriguez equation. Now, because of this setup, I have here 3 components in my unit length vector and angle theta. So a total of 4 parameters, but 3 of them are coupled because vector v is unit in a length. So here it comes. And that's the way you can express the rotation. How it look? It look like this. And again, I'm not expecting you to memorize it, but make sure you understand the concept. Now, what we did after that, I look at the ratings. Oof. It's high. It's just high. Then we discussed that there is a kind of like improved way from Rodriguez equation, and the improved way is called Euler parameters. Euler parameters is based on Rodriguez equation, but we are calling components within the Rodriguez equation by predefined ways. And these predefined ways are the ones that are listed here. Using these name tags, you can express the rotation matrix as it is shown here. Still, these 4 parameters are not free to move as they want, but they're coupled because of the unit length vector. Okay, then mathematical properties of rotation matrix, that's just the 2 stars, so not that important. Now, the thing about this is that rotation matrix is orthogonal, mathematically orthogonal. So that means that if you take a transpose of the rotation matrix and multiply that with the original rotation matrix, you end up to have an identity matrix. Then also in three-dimensional space, rotation order is something you cannot change. That's what we discussed as well. And then finally, comparing the methods. If I say, what's the difference between Euler angles and Euler parameters? Correct answer is not saying, well, parameters and angles. That's a difference because the title says that Euler angles, Euler parameters. No good. So I'm not going to give you any points out of that. But if you explain, okay, one is based on 3 parameters, but because of 3 parameters, you will have mathematical difficulties, which can be avoided by using 4 parameters. But these 4 parameters are not independent, but they are constrained. 3 parameters are easy to use because human brains get along with the 3 parameters really well, easily. No need to have a big brain, you can still understand that. Now, 4 parameters are difficult to use, but they avoid these numerical difficulties. Interpretation of 4 parameters is extremely painful. This kind of explanation would be enough. Okay. Robot kinematics, shortly. So we look at the 4x4 matrix. And yes, the title says 4x4 matrix, and it is called 4x4 matrix. And it kind of, you can see that it is related to description we use in the multi-body dynamics. Now the difference here is that we can put everything, meaning translation and rotation, to one matrix that is called 4x4 matrix. This is how it goes. So rotation matrix is located here in the upper left corner. Translation is located in the upper right corner. And the last row is just to match the dimension. And then you can build the kinematics very straightforward manner by using this approach. And the method we looked in detail was a Dynamit-Hardenberg. And that's how it goes. So it was based on 4 parameters. And really the idea is that you build this kind of table where each one of the rows correspond the bodies in your robotic setup. And then the columns here correspond these Dynamit-Hardenberg parameters. Once you have this table ready, then you have kinematics ready. So then it's a matter of substitution and just matrix multiplication, and the kinematics is up and ready to go. Here are, okay, not yet. One more thing. Particle velocity and acceleration, not particularly important. Not particularly important. This velocity is more important than acceleration because they're really what I might ask. We all hear that, right? Or was it just you? I heard nothing. Okay, so we discussed this. This is important to understand. How is a relation of angular velocity and time derivatives of rotational parameters? Those are not the same story. They can be related with help of G-matrix, but there is no way to select this guy such that this is equal than angular velocity. You cannot select that. And remember, this is coming from whatever is your description of rotation. If you're using Euler angles, you still have to use a G-matrix. If you use Euler parameters, you have to use it. No matter what's the selection, you always have to use it. So that's the thing that I would like you to know about the velocity. And if you know that, that's just so much. That's that's a big deal. Okay, so but don't try to memorize anything like that. Not important for us. And don't try to memorize acceleration because we're not going to ask that. But I might ask this concept about angular velocity and rotational parameters. time derivatives of rotational parameters. Well, you know the questions already. And the questions are, they were available in the Moodle database as the end of my last week lecture. So these are the questions. Now, if there is something that you hate big time already, make a note, because what I will ask at the very end of my lecture today is that what is a question you want to take it up? What's the question that you want to see in an exam paper? And it's all about, it's going to be a voting action, okay? Then another set, same topic. How it sounds. Of course it comes a little bit, yeah, yes sir.
What does couple simulation mean?
Oh yeah, we haven't really discussed much about that. So it's the question number 2. Okay, so coupled simulation means that we are combining different disciplines together. So it means in our world, it means that we are combining multi-body dynamics and say modeling of hydraulics. That's when we couple these two areas together, and that's what it is. We have not discussed about the ways to make it happen, but shortly you can do this by putting all the unknowns. This time they would be generalized coordinates and pressures to one vector of unknowns and solve everything simultaneously. That's what is called monolithic approach. Or you can have one software that is solving the multi-body, another software that is solving the hydraulics, and then you're changing information between these two softwares. This is called co-simulation. Co-simulation can be in practice organized, well, let's say generally 2 different ways. And that means how often you're changing information from these softwares. But co-simulation and monolithic, that's enough. And you don't know that coupled simulation means that you're combining 2 things, 2 or more things to one package. You got it? You're answering like that for points. Anything else? What kind of system can be analyzed using multi-body dynamics? Multi-body system. But you need to explain what it is. So you need to explain what makes a system to be a multi-body system. One really important component is that bodies are coupled together via joints. So that's what makes a system to be a multi-body system. And multi-body, as the title implies, multiple bodies. Okay. Can I go? Okay. So first 11 questions. 3-dimensional dynamics. We did not spend much time here. There's only one question here that I might ask in this field. And it's related to mass matrix. You know, this is a kind of messy mathematics. Only thing that I would like you to memorize here is that with help of T matrix, the one that is located here, you can map your inertia properties to any generalized coordinates you want. And that's important because if you select to use Euler parameters, you will have 3 rotational parameters. It's going to be difficult to explain inertia properties with respect to these 3 rotational parameters because think about it. It's just that, you know, you're going to develop the major headache if you even think about this. If you want to do it, then it's going to be a migraine for sure. And you need to get the medical attention. So not recommended. Not recommended. But how you can make it happen? Well, you can make it happen with the G. So think about like the G comes and that's a like rescue team that comes into play and say, no worries, I know what you need. You have your inertia changer and then you have your rotational parameters and they are very away from each other, but let me build you a bridge. And the bridge is G matrix. Got it? Okay. All right, so that's the thing that I would like to explain. Well, this is how it looks in details. So the inertia tensor is this component here, and how it look like this. It consists of mass moment of inertia located in a diagonal component. This is what you learned already in where is that they teach you that? Preschool. Well, long time ago. So it was about this mass moment of inertia and mass product of inertia that is located in off-diagonal components. And now this all depends how is your local coordinate system, body reference coordinate system with respect to inertia. This mass moment of inertia, these diagonal components always having the positive values. But you know, the mass product of inertia may even have a negative values. But that depends how the coordinate system is set. But because this is what you learned already a million years ago, we're not going to discuss about that so much. But we discuss this rescue G matrix. Okay. Equation of motion, we are not going to discuss that because we learned that already a while ago. The question, only question is this. How inertia tensor can be related to acceleration or rotational generalized coordinates? That means G. That's how you can do it. Okay, but not that highly rated. Description of flexible bodies. Linear and nonlinear deformation. What is the difference between the large deformation and small deformation? When you can say you deal with the large deformation? You deal with the large deformation when strain displacement relationship is nonlinear. This is, I think I'm sure you have heard this before, because usually, sometimes it's called like a geometric nonlinearity. There are two different nonlinearities you can deal with: material nonlinearity and geometric nonlinearity. Now, what the geometric nonlinearity means for us is not the large rotation, which is a source of nonlinearity. We don't speak about that, but we're speaking about how is a strain displacement relationship. Is it linear or nonlinear? Now, remember this story that there was this cantilever beam, and it was loaded from the free end. And now, depending if you have linear, or if you have a linear strain displacement relationship, meaning this relation, then the free end will stay in a loading line no matter how hard you press it, which is all right if you look at the small deformation. But if you're dealing with the large deformation, this is unrealistic. Now, if this relation is nonlinear, then the deformation looks something like this. And there's a displacement along the length. And that's what happens in reality. Okay, so that's geometrical nonlinear. Then the landmass approach. This was the one that you have original body, and then you go and divide the original body to number of rigid bodies. And between the rigid bodies, you're introducing the spring elements. Okay, then floating frame reference formulation, general idea. So I will look at the questions in a minute. And comparison of method, landmass approach, floating frame reference formulation. But let's look at the questions. Now here are the questions. Why a body deformation needs to be accounted in multi-body applications? To show off your skills. Yeah, could be a reason, but maybe a better reason than that could be to get more accurate models, to match your model better to reality. Then how linear strain displacement relationship affects the deformation of a cantilever beam. You know that already. That's that story that it reminds in a loading line. explain the concept of landmass approach. This is easy, but if you really want to score high, remember to explain that this landmass approach is a little bit problematic because it actually leads to numerically stiff models. You still remember what's the numerically stiff? It means that the natural frequencies are spread around the large frequency range. And that's when you have high frequencies and low frequencies, and that's typically something that you want to avoid when you make models. Okay? Then just for your information, there is one more method which is even easier than the landmass approach, and it is called linear theory of elastodynamics. Sounds extremely sophisticated approach. It's not. It's just that you compute the rigid multibody dynamics. Once you compute it, you can get the reaction forces and inertial forces, and then you're exporting those forces to your finite element model. And then in the finite element model, you're computing your deformation. It's not acceptable in many of the cases because then the deformation and rigid body motion is not coupled. They are not affecting each other. Okay, but that's for your information. I'm not going to ask that because it's not in a list. Because only questions in a list is allowed in this game. Okay? Finite element method. Polynomial expansion. Let's look at the questions in a minute. But polynomial expansion is really the soul, like really the muscles of the finite element method. Not the muscles, but the heart of the finite element method is really what tells how it performs. And what we want to do with the polynomial expansion is that we want to convert those to be expressed by using nodal degrees of freedom. So polynomial expansion is our soul. That's what's inside of our body. But problem in a polynomial expansion is that they have this a little bit complicated polynomial expansion terms that are difficult to interpret in reality. So those are the ones that we want to replace by nodal degrees of freedom. And when doing so, we have safe functions. Safe functions is eventually what is, kind of like a physical appearance of finite elements. Okay? So that's how it goes. Derivation of stiffness matrix. Forget about it. Not very important. The polynomial expansion, is quite important. And it's related to this topic, which is safe functions. That's the story. That's the story you need to tell from the beginning. And you can, if you really want to impress me, take the Pascal's triangle, the part of the explanation. Remember what's the Pascal's triangle? That's where you can select these polynomial terms. Now remember the safe functions by introducing the displacement to one nodal degrees of freedom at the time. So they are orthogonal in that respect. All right, then the solution of the equation of motion. Well, that's is really important. So you can solve the equation of motion by using direct integration, when you just take all the nodal degrees of freedom and you solve it. Possible. Not recommended because it is not making much sense. Another way to do it is to first move to modal coordinates with help of assumed deformation and then solve modal coordinates. How you can get these ones here, which is assumed deformation, you can get it from eigenvalue analysis. Eigenvalue analysis itself quite important. Is this even real? What? I cannot count this far, but this is, I guess, like 100 stars. So it's really a modal reduction. Make sure you understand this back and forth. All the details related to that. The story in the beginning is this. You realize that this is difficult to solve because of the dimensions. So you want to reduce the size. And you reduce the size by moving from nodal coordinates to modal coordinates. These two sets of coordinates are related because of assumed deformation. Assumed deformation you can get many ways. One way is eigenvalue analysis, telling you the properties of your structure. And then once you know the way that the structure can deform, then you can jump to modal coordinates. And important step in a modal reduction is that you are not using all possible ways that the structure can deform, but some of it. Okay, if these assumed deformations are orthogonal, then final representation is a diagonal representation of inertia and stiffness. Okay, then Craig-Thompson method was a method that was based on two set of modes. The one that was called fixed interface modes that you computed by using eigenvalue analysis, and then the static modes that are based on unit displacement. Static modes are not orthogonal. So if you want to make them orthogonal, you have to use a method that is called orthonormalization. What a monster, what a monster. You still have to remember it. Orthonormalization forces all the modes to be orthogonal. Once that happens, then the modes look like roughly free modes and roughly boundary modes. Questions? Well, look at the question. So explain how polynomials can be used in the approximation of displacement in finite element method. This would be a high temptation to ask that. This one. Pascal's triangle is here already. Convergency. Convergency, remember that's related to how many nodal degrees of freedom you're using to get the acceptable solution. What is it the shape functions are describing? It shows what is the capability of the element. It shows the way it can deform. Now, and it shows how the different, the particles between the nodal location, how they are moving if I'm introducing unit displacement to one nodal degrees of freedom. How to obtain shape function matrix? Physical interpretation of eigenvector is the way structure can deform. And it is a vibration, is related to vibration mode. Physical interpretation of eigenvalue, natural frequency of the structure. That's the story in short. How to conduct an eigenvalue analysis, that was explained to mass normalization of eigenvector. That was the scaling thing we discussed shortly. What reference condition means in floating frame reference formulas. That means this, how you set the boundary condition when you're comparing these assumed deformation modes. Mode selection. Yeah, but let me just close the story and then let's vote. If this is all right. Okay. Mode selection. We just briefly discussed about that. It was this automated way was that you can select how much each one of the modes are contributed, and if they don't contribute much, you let them go. Then the mass invariance. Mass invariance is the one that combines finite element model and multi-body system dynamics. These are the possible questions. In finite element method, the equation of motion can be expressed in terms of nodal degrees of freedom as follows. Okay, this is a modal reduction more than anything else. Where the word floating is coming in the floating frame reference formulas. You remember, if you don't have a boundary condition, then you get this floating reference condition. Craig-Thompson explained that. Mass invariance explained that. Bicycle lecture is now in our YouTube channel, so you can take a look at that. Questions? I need to double check this. You need to go and check this PowerPoint presentation before you start preparing yourself to exam, because these are the questions that I might change this. This came from Professor Schwab. I might change it. So don't memorize it yet. Don't prepare yourself with these questions because they are subjected to changes. Look, not easy. It takes even a half a day to read them. So what is it they ask?
The previous one is just a question or question and answer? Is it?
Don't look at this yet because I need to verify this. I will get back to you. I will get back to you. Would you like to hear good news or bad news? I don't have that. What about bad news?
Question number 3 looks good.
What was that?
Question number 3 looks good.
3. Okay, the bad news is this. These are not subjected to our voting action, so it cannot affect this bicycle lecture. I might take one or might not. Okay, but your recommendation is that, oh, this is too easy. This is too easy. Okay. Now, the one thing that I forgot to mention. Now, when you go to the student union website, this is how you see the exams. They will not be like this because the agreement we have. The agreement we have is that I'm only allowed to ask a question that are shown in the list with no changes, right? Look, these are random stuff. I'm asking like here, give me then I talked about parameters for this kind of model. So it's not that I can ask something like that because I'm going to stick in our agreement. I have to because otherwise you're going to start hating me big time. And I love you big time, so that would be very unfortunate. So are we ready to vote? Let's vote. Now, 2 voting actions. First voting is this. I would like to remove question number hashtag from the exam. And then you're just selecting one that you want to remove. A total of 29? I thought that 28. I thought 28. So is this wrong? The last one. Oh, no, 29. 29. So now you just vote. Whatever it is that you want to take it off. Okay, 8 students only. Online. What about rest? You don't care. 10 students. 3 votes. Not much. So, 12 students. Okay. So can I close? Not yet. Now, then you need to be ready to answer the next question, which is, what is a question that you would like to see in exam paper? Now, it's possible That's, we don't get the winner because it's possible, because we have 29 questions, possible questions, and only 17 votes. So it's possible that they are spread it around, so the maximum number of votes is just the one vote. If that's the case, then I will do the lottery. Okay, so guys, please vote. Did you guys vote it already? Not yet. Would you like to hear my opinion?
Yes.
Now this is what I would like to take it off. If I would be you, this is a little too late to explain it to you, but well, they're all beautiful questions, of course. But something that maybe I would like to, if I would be you, I would like to take it off. Maybe this, I don't know, they're all so beautiful. So, this is like asking who is the kids that you like them, you love the most. I love them all. Okay. So 18, so still looks at 7, no, still on the way. So is it again that the Eduroam is weak here? Or is it all right? Okay, so we have 15. Can I close this now? Okay? Okay, two are missing. So can I close it? Okay. 0, 0. Okay, this is scary. 0, 0, 0. 6%. Number 11. Oh, we get the better than that. Number 16. No. Oh, that's clear. So it's clear. 28. Forget about the 28. Don't read 28. All right? What is 28? Should we take a look? I think it makes sense to take a look. What is a 28? What? So you don't want to answer that? Seriously? Because all these beautiful ortho normalization, everything, so why not? Why not? Okay? So now I'm going to vote. I want to, because the next question is that what's the question that you would like to be in exam? I'm going to vote. You know what? 28. Okay, so now let's vote. Next one. Next. Now, the question is now different. In the exam, I would like to answer the question number 28. 28. Okay, 28 is out.
Ne, to nejde. Počkej, že to?
So I can see that there's a little bit of team playing. It's all right. It's allowed, of course. Okay. Okay. Still missing 7. No changes. Okay, guys, can you please vote? So then we will continue. You voted already? Oh, okay. So it seems that now it's coming. So 15. Can I just close this? Okay. Now that question that for sure you need to know by heart, you need to know back and forth, is number 7. Okay. Let's see. Oh, no, don't look at that. So number 6, number 6 perhaps. Number 6 is 17. 17. Look at this. So what is that we should do? So who is voting for 28? So you voted 28. So who is voting? Is it changing?
It's 10.
Changed. Something changed.
Somebody voted.
Ah, okay. Okay, so somebody was in the hall.
So
So the winner is number 6.
I'll give it a luck.
See, number 6. That's done there.
What is give a luck?
Let's take a look. What's the number 6? Number 6 is.
Give a luck.
Is it Gimbalakin?
Yeah.
Seriously, guys? You want to answer Gimbalakin? I would skip this for sure because it's so difficult to understand, like what, this whole locking thing. Okay? So, this will be an exam paper. 28 will not be an exam paper. Rest, you will see next week.
From the same chapter that we just put it up.
We'll see. We'll see. No comments. Okay, so with that, I want to close early today, so I have no other things to discuss today.
So how long answers do you prefer? Essay type?
How many questions?
No, answers. How many questions you have?
I'm not sure. I think 6.
And then how long answers do you prefer? Essay type or one line?
It's all right to explain a little bit of background, but make sure that you are staying in a subject matter. Because I don't like to read the lengthy, because first of all, I don't like to read your answers. That's the first thing. And why is that? That's simply because it's so painful to read your handwriting. It's just pure pain. I'm crying every single year. I'm just crying because it's just like figuring out that, okay, there's something going on here, but I don't understand what it is because I'm unable to read this. So it's painful. So then it is when it is very lengthy, you're explaining about your summer vacation, about your relatives, about your new bicycle and how fun it was to run with that. Then I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying here. I cannot read this all the way through. So it makes me not feeling good. And if I'm not feeling good, then I'm thinking, maybe there's nothing good here. So maybe it's just I'm going to put 0 here. Maybe let me just fail you. So don't allow me to get that kind of attitude. But also, sometimes I can see that the answers are like one word. Yes or no? Don't answer like that. Explain whatever you know about that subject matter. So if there's something background let me know. Okay. All right? Any other questions?
So we don't have to remember the questions, just the concepts.
No. Whatever you do, don't try to memorize the equation. And you know that usually if there is a need to use equation, I keep it in exam paper because memorizing the equation is the complete waste of time there. Because you may be able to keep it in your head that particular 3 hours, but as soon as you're off from the next room, it's gone. It's gone. All right, anything else? Okay, if not, then I'm gonna close streaming.